Hey everyone, welcome back to another podcast here at the Roofers Helper. I am Richie Rossouw. I'm the owner of Thunder Media. We film these podcasts for the Roofers Helper. Today I'm joined by
Mitch
with JobNimbus. We're really excited to have him on the show today. We're going to talk all things JobNimbus, roofing, and hopefully get some helpful insights if you're a roofing contractor that can improve your business. So, Mitch, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So we are at the SRC Summit, Storm Restoration Contractor Summit. Really exciting to have you guys here. Lots of cool guests, attendees here. Tell me, what do you enjoy about things like this?
Oh, shows?
Yeah, it shows.
Man, I just prefer the communication face-to-face.
Yep.
In this world, especially where we are in the tech space,
Yep.
right? We run off of Zoom meetings all the time, constantly. It's just different when you can get face-to-face with people. And like I mentioned to you at the beginning of our conversation, my whole family's contractors, right? So I feel like this industry is family to me, and we try and treat anybody who comes our way like family. And so in a world where everything's done on screens, I feel like people kind of disconnect from the human aspect of it, to where when you can get face-to-face with people, make the right connections, have good conversations. I'd way rather do it here than sitting at a desk.
Yeah, for sure. So your family was they were contractors?
They're contractors.
What kind of work do they do?
So they're general contractors, mostly in the commercial space.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, lots
like
of steel buildings.
Steel buildings?
They'll do like mid-rises.
Okay.
But a lot of like just the commercial stuff that you would see in the industrial space.
Okay.
They work on a lot of military bases and stuff like that. So I grew up in offices where paper stacked everywhere, filing cabinets, whiteboards. And so that's another cool thing about being in JobNimbus is I can take everything that I saw as a kid and make that virtual for people, right? Where they can access any of that data, from anywhere in the world as long as they have cell service.
So JobNimbus is what part of your career is this? Just curious.
Late stage, man. I'm retiring in a year. Just kidding.
I think you got some other experience.
Yeah. Lots of experience in software.
Okay.
Lots of experience as a business person, as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Owned a company, sold it. Yeah. They're all entrepreneurs, man. So grew up around it. It's cool. And just what I love about the contracting space is everybody's real. When I would sell into different spaces like e-commerce and stuff like that, it's just suit and tie. Can't swear on a Zoom call. These guys, it's just whatever, and they're just real. They'll tell you how it is and not give you the runaround.
Yep.
So it's
no,
great.
it's true. So how long have you been at JobNimbus?
This is my 5th year at JobNimbus. Yeah. So it's almost like I'm one of the OGs now.
Yeah, and in software years, that's like what 100 years or something.
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
really crazy. We don't have a ton of we have attrition, but when people go to JobNimbus, they stick around for the most part because I think it's a couple things there. One, this industry's great, and the other thing is the culture at JobNimbus. If you guys haven't been to our office or one of our crew events, I would really recommend that, especially if you're a JobNimbus user.
In Utah?
In Utah,
okay.
Yeah. So about 7 to 8 months of the year, we have what we call the crew event.
Okay.
And so what that is people fly into Utah. They stay out in Lehigh at our headquarters where, it's close to like ski resorts and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And 3 days, typically, people will come in and we talk about the product, best practices, the state of the industry, some of the stuff that we'll probably talk about today.
Okay.
But then not only that, we like to get feedback on the product. We're constantly evolving the system. And I think that's one of the key things here. If you're paying for a system and they're not constantly keeping up with the change in the industry and supplying you with more and more products, then they're probably doing it wrong, because we're in software as a service, meaning as you continue to pay for the system, we're going to continue to build out what people are asking for.
So you started 2018 then? 2019?
No, 2025. I started in 2020.
2020. Okay. Yeah. It's that's a different lifetime ago.
It's crazy. COVID messed everybody up. That's what it did.
It did.
It's been half a decade since COVID. And it feels like 2 years ago.
Well, depending on where you're at in the country, it feels like it's still
man.
weird.
Go to the airport, see a lot of face masks still.
You're like, man, it's hard to believe that was such a defining moment. What did that do to, did that have an effect on you guys at JobNimbus? Good or bad?
It's kind of interesting. We actually doubled in revenue in 2020. We were still babies. A couple things
showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think a couple things happened with the industry in 2020 and 2021, especially when there was a bunch of money getting pushed into the market and there were low rates
Interesting,
everywhere.
yes.
And people were kind of sitting around their homes. And so what were they thinking about? Like, oh, I want to remodel this place and stuff like that. So we saw a huge increase in terms of users. And back then, there wasn't a ton of technology in the space. Now you look around, like if you're at this conference, there's every other booth is some sort of software, right? And most of them that we integrate to and we have a partnership with,
Y'all have an open API.
we have an open API,
Yeah.
so you can dev to it. I actually was on it all morning.
Not all CRMs have that.
Yeah, that's their own thing. You know, it's crazy. I'll be talking to somebody and they'll bring up some brand new software I've never even heard of, and they're like, "Oh, they have an integration to you guys," and I'll be like, "Oh, that's interesting. Go look it up." And
I love it.
right there,
Yes.
yeah. So if you're looking to dev out to JobNimbus, hit us up.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah. So yeah, back to the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
I think that just the lower rates and all the money going into the market, and that's where we doubled in size there. We took on a round of funding and kind of rebuilt a lot of things like the app, because you know the majority of logins into a CRM, 80% are from the mobile, and so if you don't have a good app, what are you doing out there?
Yeah. I don't know if you can see. There's a lot of like Vietnam flashback in my eyes from the CRM apps.
No,
I grew up in the industry and roofing supply and different things, and man, the CRM apps,
yeah.
no bueno.
They're bad out there. They're not user friendly. They're constantly crashing. It's a lot of data.
So you started working on that heavily back in 2020.
Yeah, so we actually gutted the app and rebuilt it from the ground up. So now if you go to like the App Store or Android store, you'll see
It's
that,
like an actual app and not like an Excel spreadsheet or something.
yeah, man, and like being able to take photos and fill out forms and just have a standardized process when you're out in the field, which some of them it's just you can pull up basic information on the client, but you've got to put that data in there as well.
So COVID hits and you double your users. Is that
We doubled in revenue.
Wow.
Yeah, and then since then it's just been a sprint. Almost every year we've basically doubled in revenue, you know. And like I said, there wasn't a ton of software back then in the industry. Now it is everywhere. If you're not using technology today, you're drowning.
Yeah.
So that just became our major focus. Industry was kind of wide open. You know, we were one of the first ones to it. And so that really served as an opportunity for JobNimbus to grow.
So you guys have a ton of data.
Yeah. Yeah. More data than any technology in this space.
I mean, today maybe it's always been this way, but I mean,
Yeah.
today now more than ever, data is extremely valuable.
It is. And it is
Good
valuable. Exactly. Right. You
Yes.
take the metadata and you have to, I don't know. I'm not one of those,
Sure.
guys that can sit there and play with numbers all day. That's why I talk to people. But we do. We have a lot of access to that data. We keep our customers' data private. We ask their permission. And typically it's at like those crew events and when we're face to face with them, like, do you mind if we use some of this data just for us to get better insights, right?
Yep.
Because part of what we try and do when we're building out products and when we're building out the infrastructure is, well, what's the state of the industry? What do we really need to help make our customers more successful? And so when that data gets shared with us, we work with a lot of these other companies like Beacon and SRS and Eagle View, and I could go on forever to build, one of the things we'll talk about here is our peak performance, right? And so it's this.
Yeah, I've seen that over there at your booth.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's this big white paper that we take all this data and we kind of look at what are the best practices out there, not just with technology, but how do homeowners prefer to be communicated to, right?
Are you getting that all through your app? I mean, how are you getting that information?
It's a combo of a couple different things. So data that our customers will share with us that allow us to, right? Because it's your data. So if you're using JobNimbus, you own your data. We don't hold it hostage. We don't sell that data. What we do is typically give them the ability to go in and analyze that data, right? So they can make good business decisions. But when they share that with us, we can take that metadata and make decisions on what do we need to focus on, right? We're really big on automations. And that's another one of those things that if you're not automating in 2025, you're dying out there, right? So you should be, if you're in the residential space, automating communication to homeowners and keeping them in the loop at every step of the process. And so that's a lot of what we focus on.
So you've mentioned you get that data from your app. Then did I hear you have like some sort of
We'll work with partners that also share some of that data with us as well, so that we can kind of take like
okay, like
combined.
what is that, like survey?
So we'll do surveys to people in the industry, and that's where we get a lot
Okay.
of the data. Surveys are kind of interesting because people will kind of just put whatever they want to.
That's
So again, it's
sure.
kind of one of those things that they have to calculate, again, with all sorts of different
Sure.
algorithms and stuff to say how accurate and where's the actual fallout from this data to know if what we're saying out there, because we want to be as accurate as possible if we're going to present something to you like you know you should be posting on social media 2 to 3 times a week. Well, how do we know that without actually getting proof?
You're analyzing
Everything. Yeah.
and this is all found in the peak performers.
In the peak performance, right?
Okay.
And I think we'll probably include like a URL
Okay.
into this eventually, where you can just scan it, download it. There's thousands and thousands of roofers that access it every year, and I'd say we're really proud of it. It's one of the biggest things that
How
we
long have you
do.
been doing that?
I think this is the 3rd year
Okay.
that we've done it. Yeah, and it's been really successful. Everything that I talk about in terms of like when I'm speaking at events all goes back to that, because we could talk CRMs all day. There's a lot of CRMs out there, right? And they all do things a little different, but we want to give everybody who's in this space access to what the best practices are. What are the best companies doing to
Can we
grow?
talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
What is the top 3 areas of focus for the peak performers?
For peak performance, so a couple different things. We want to look at the data in terms of homeowners and how they consume, right? Especially when you're doing like a direct consumer, or even when we're talking commercial, where that's a more fragile relationship. So we have to kind of analyze that and say, well, what's the difference here? For example, if I'm dealing with a commercial contractor, we don't want to send out a bunch of automated text messages, right? But if we're dealing in the residential home, we want to send out those text messages because it has a 95% open rate in the first 24 hours. A phone call, it's a coin flip if they're going to answer, right? An email, good luck. It's like 40% in the first 24 hours. If you were to email me today, I wouldn't see it for a week.
And to some extent, the homeowners are expecting that automation.
They should. Yeah. I
they're
mean,
getting it from everywhere else.
yeah,
They're doing.
we live in the world of DoorDash. Everything's on demand,
Yeah.
right? And so we try and give,
You have data to support that this is working.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
We can see the open rates, right? And so we know.
You can see the open rate of a text.
Of a text, yeah, and an email. We can see the click rate on an email.
Interesting.
So JobNimbus has that tracker piece in there.
Okay.
So for example, if you send an email to somebody in JobNimbus, you can actually get in and see how many times they've opened it, if they've clicked on it. If I've sent a proposal to somebody and I'm like, okay, they've clicked on this a couple times, they might have a question. Give them a call.
Super cool.
Track all that. So there's that data. There's also, we're looking at the efficiency of companies, right? So for example here, a lot of times we're building an estimate, maybe in a spreadsheet, maybe in a CRM. Well, we're not done yet. Once that's signed, then the real fun begins. We got to order materials. We got to build a work order, right? We got to invoice the customer. And so what we've done is we've looked at that. What's the speed to all of that stuff, right? And that's why we plug in with different things like suppliers, for example, right? That live pricing come in when we're building an estimate, and we can quickly convert that into a material order, choose the date and time, place that order right there. I'm not jumping over to ABC or SRS or Beacon Pro Plus, right? Which is great. Go ahead and do that. But if I can save you 20 minutes from having to enter all that information in,
Yep, it's already in.
right? The other thing would be like measurements. So that's where we plug into like the Hovers and Eagle Views of the world.
Yep.
So that can come in, generate the quantities in JobNimbus to create a estimate or a material order.
And then you mentioned you had something else, another area of focus for your study.
Yeah, so marketing is another big thing that we do. So we acquired Roofer Marketers about 2 years ago. We've gotten really good at acquiring companies. We've acquired 3 companies in the past 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So we acquired Sumo Quote 13 months ago, 14 months ago.
Super cool. Yep.
And that's been great.
Yeah.
Right? Because our goal at that time, we're always just trying to focus on what's next, right? And we wanted to give the best sales experience we possibly could, not just for our customers, but our customers' customers, right? Our whole thing is making contractors heroes. And so if I can show up and generate a proposal right there on the spot where people can select their different options, help them with financing or whatever needs to be done there, and get a signature on the spot, then great.
You mentioned proposals and marketing, and I don't think a lot of contractors realize the connection. It's just like, oh, that's a proposal.
Yeah.
That's not marketing.
No. Marketing's got to happen on the front end and the back end, right? And it's still keeping them in the loop, right? So, for example, if you get done with a project if we look at the data again, 91% of the top performing contractors out there in the roofing space, their number one lead source is referrals still, right? And so that's really interesting to us.
Number one lead source.
Number one lead source for 91% of top performing roofing contractors. So the ones that are doing over 7 million in revenue
Their number one lead source is referrals.
is referrals, right?
And obviously, the top performing lead.
Is referrals, absolutely. So that's nothing that we can look at. What's the close rate on that type of stuff, right? And not just us, but our customers, because all that data goes into JobNimbus, where you say, okay, looking at our Facebook leads, looking at our Google leads, looking at our referrals. Well, if I'm looking at referrals, those are closing at 50%. If they come from Facebook, 20%. Man, we should really focus more on referrals. So when we see that, what do? We say, okay, we want to get more tools to our customers to say we should be pushing more automated follow-up when a deal is completed, when the job is done, to push people, hey, don't forget about a referral program, right? And then the other piece of that is reviews, right? Because if you think about yourself as a consumer, all right, great. I need to get a new roof. I'm going to call my dad. I'm going to call my cousin. I'm going to call my neighbor, right? Who does your roof? Well, they're going to give me that. First thing I'm going to do, and this is most consumers, is they're going to Google that person, right? So if you're showing up, you've got 5 stars from like 2 people. Okay, maybe I'll give you a call. You got 3 stars.
From an SEO standpoint, you're probably not going to be showing up if you only have 2.
Yeah, because what's next from there, right? If you don't have the best reviews and I'm uncomfortable with that, then typically I'm going to Google best roofers in my area.
This is very interesting that you bring that up, because like you said, the marketing, we think that like that outside marketing and everything, but if my top lead source
that's organic.
should be referrals, then there's an entire internal process that I can work on that could change the game if I never ran another outside ad again.
I promise you, your best salespeople are actually your customers. And so if you've got happy customers and they're leaving you reviews and they're getting you referrals and those close at the best rate, then that's what we should be focusing on.
And your customer is getting a better perception of you because they're dealing with a professional portal, invoicing, or
and that's where like the proposal comes in, right? If I can generate a good-looking proposal, I know I'm dealing with a serious contractor. So there's guys out there that just started their roofing company 3 months ago that are generating proposals that are better looking than a company that's doing 40 million in revenue.
So are you getting are you still getting like Sumo Quote separately, and then I'm getting JobNimbus? If I have JobNimbus, it's built in now.
It's baked in now.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
So if you get JobNimbus, you get Sumo Quote with it, right? And then everything else that comes with JobNimbus, the material orders, the work orders, the invoicing, right? And part of that invoicing, and we again, this is data that we look at, what's cash flow, because cash flow is everything, especially if you're new, right? You got to be getting that cash flow in there. So we give you the ability to invoice directly in JobNimbus with automated reminders. Hey, don't forget your payments due. Don't forget your payments due. Click here to pay, right? And so that's what we focus on from that perspective
as well. Yeah.
And that money goes into your bank account the next day, where a lot of times if you're using a payment processor outside of your CRM, it could take a week.
Yep. It depends on the amount. Yeah, sure. And then you're handling payment processing as well.
Yeah.
And you're giving like the customer some sort of portal
that
they can pay through that's branded.
Yeah, typically what I like to do when we build this out is we want to send out a text and an email with a little link. They click on, there's that portal. They can choose, do I want to pay with a credit card? Do I want to pay with a direct deposit?
So you could do accounting through JobNimbus?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, we're always looking at this as part of the data and the feedback that we get.
For sure.
We're constantly building it out.
Running her everywhere else, but I heard accounting, like, whoa, I did not realize that.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we're working on right now is job costing, right? And what we call a profit tracker. And so what we see in this industry is that contractors have a hard time actually knowing their numbers as they're running the job. And so what we want to do is have our planned costs and our actual costs be running simultaneously. Now, if I have a proposal where I'm plugged into the supplier and that comes directly in, my plan and actuals are going to be really close. But if I'm running an insurance job, then I got to go do a material order that may come in completely different, right? And so we want to be able to calculate those different things. Okay, how am I performing here? Commissions, we got to run all that stuff, right? So that gives you a centralized location where it's going to pull in the original estimate. It's going to pull in the material order. If labor changes, right, on that work order, that's got to pull in, right? If we got a change order, that's all got to pull into.
Very interesting.
That's a lot of moving pieces for somebody to try and keep track of.
And especially if they're separate. So if you've got your accounting system and then your CRM and they're supposed to be talking to each other and you're trying to handle your job costing inside of your accounting.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult process, but you're bringing it all together in the same
It's all going to be in
Place.
JobNimbus, and so it will still
Going to
continue.
be and all.
Yeah, so it's a beta right now,
Okay,
right? So
okay.
if you're on JobNimbus, hit us up. We can give you access to it. You can play around with it. But one of the things that we do when we're testing products out, we want to run it over and over and over again to make sure that there's no bugs in the system.
Yeah.
A lot of the early adopters will come in because they're asked, by us to try things out, and that's where we get a lot of product feedback. Right.
What did you call this service again?
So it's called the Profit Tracker.
The Profit Tracker.
And so right now, a lot of times you're running maybe some high level budget in a CRM, but then you have to go into QuickBooks, right?
You have to go to, yes, 100%.
And so the goal here is that once we have that profit tracker and everything kept track of in JobNimbus, well, that'll just sink into QuickBooks, right? And so that's what we're building right now.
So you don't have to worry about your cost of goods sold versus liabilities and expenses, all stuff for things.
What am I looking at as overhead, right? Well, I can't really see that unless it's communicating.
All inside of
JobNimbus, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go back to the marketing side of things because a lot of people make marketing decisions without enough data. Just like somebody knocks on their door, hey, can you sponsor my softball team? Can we sell Facebook ads for you?
Yeah.
And they're just missing. They don't make decisions based on the data, and a lot of times they don't have data to work from.
You need to have that data so you can see, because if you're spending a bunch of money on a lead program like an Angie or something like that, and if it's not converting for you, especially at a high value, then you're spinning your wheels.
100%. So if you're tracking all that inside of JobNimbus, I can see probably on the dashboard my top performing lead source. For the month, quarter.
Take it even further. How are my sales reps closing in each of those? Maybe I have a sales rep that's really good at closing on Facebook, right? So maybe we push more of those leads their way.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's this in the past 5 years? I'd be curious, like, what's the most the best way to leverage your CRM?
Yeah. So always keep yourself in the loop with what's changing, right? Like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, we're constantly building new things into the system. So if you're on JobNimbus, there's going to be a little light bulb in the bottom left-hand corner. Go click on that and see product updates, right? We do webinars. You have account managers that you can sync with. You have unlimited support. Call on or chat them whenever you need to.
Don't wait for it to go bad.
Yeah. A lot of times I talk to these guys, especially at like a conference, and we love JobNimbus, and I'll pull something out that we've had for like 3 years. They're like, do we have that? It's like, yeah, man, you're not using it. And so it's crazy. But that's, you think your time is super valuable. And it definitely is, but you should be spending a couple hours, every month just making sure that your system is tuned up.
Using the latest stuff.
Yeah. Whether it's JobNimbus or another CRM, hopefully your CRM is continuing to put out
That's a really, really great piece of advice there. People don't take the time to stay with something, and then they go to switch to some other CRM.
Yeah.
Flip everyone on their heads that just got used to the last CRM.
Just to find out they already had it.
Had it, or it was in the works, and they weren't spending the time.
Yeah. Communicate with us, right?
To communicate and to receive the communication that you guys are putting out.
Well, people are ignoring that, and that's just a critical piece, because that's what we focus on, is building these tools to help make people successful, right? We don't charge them for it because they're already paying us month over month. So 99% of what we build, or the companies we acquire, when we acquired Sumo Quote, we just included that for everybody. So it's like, here you go. Here's a better proposal system. And so people have been adopting it. Yeah. And it's crazy because it's like, you look at a user basis, it's actually cheaper in JobNimbus than like Sumo Quote was standalone.
That's great. So when it comes to the peak performance report marketing, what's the best lead source right now?
Referrals. We talked about.
Okay.
After that, we want to look at SEO, right?
Okay.
Because it's all about reviews in this space.
Sure. So if I'm getting directly referred, I'm searching you up.
Yeah, you're looking it up, or I'm going and saying best roofers in my area. You need to make sure you're there.
Who's popping up at the top of the list?
The people with the most posts, the people who are constantly putting out new blogs, right? The way the SEO works is it's taking those keywords, right?
It's not just optimizing your website anymore.
No, man. Well, and it's the reviews. You have to have
reviews and then content.
Yeah.
Where do you put the content at?
We put it on the website because that's how the Google crawler works, right?
Okay. So not just YouTube or Facebook?
Not just YouTube. And what's crazy is it's like only 2/3 of roofing companies are utilizing media in the sense of video, right? And that's huge because I want to go to the website. I want to see a video of what's going on. Not only that, like if you're going to come do my roof, send me an email introducing yourself,
So I can do this inside of JobNimbus?
You can do all that inside of JobNimbus. And
Interesting.
we acquired Roofer Marketers. We've rebranded that as JobNimbus Marketing so we can help with the SEO and building out the website and sharing those best practices with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so putting video into my website, into an email, you said?
Yeah, email to, introduce
these
somebody or
videos about?
referrals. A lot of times it's referrals or reviews or testimonials. I'm a big fan of testimonials. In fact, on a proposal, why not have a testimonial in there? If I can't get it signed right there, they're going to go read through it as a family. Let's have a couple videos in there with people talking about what their experience was
There
like.
we go, yes.
Yeah.
So video content is one of the most powerful things
So
and
underutilized.
So if I've got a JobNimbus account, at what point am I deploying a video?
Yeah, so we like to do a crawl, walk, run if you're starting out,
Okay.
right? But if you're talking about in the process, I mean, I would, if it was me, I would build one. If somebody goes to my website, fills out a contact us form, I'm sending out an automated text message, letting them know we're going to be in contact. Then I'm sending them an email saying, hey, here's some information on us with a video talking about it. So if you're not using
Every step of the way, they're
every step of the
getting
way,
some video communication
Yeah.
from my business.
or at least any sort of
Interesting.
communication,
Any sort of course.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying, crawl, walk, run.
crawl, walk, run.
Start off with some communication.
Yeah.
Then I add in some links,
Yeah.
and then a boss tier status, whatever you want to call it, is
What's interesting
video
is
mode.
how many people aren't following up after they send a proposal out or a contingency agreement. It's like 2 days later, 3 days later, you should be sending out an email with that information.
Well, coming from, contract world, I want to set up an automation, but I go in like some of your more, let's say it's MailChimp or whatever your text message automation companies that are outside of the CRM, and it's a huge headache. Like, I go to set up an automation, I'm like, okay, I know I need to do this, but it's ridiculously complicated.
Yeah.
How do y'all solve that?
So in our blueprints, when you go through onboarding, we share best practices with you. There's
Okay.
8,000 different roofing contractors using JobNimbus today. We're by far the largest CRM in the space.
8,000.
8,000, right? And so we have those best practices that we share with you. But again, that's crawl, walk, run, because when you switch CRMs or you're starting on a CRM, we want to start with the basics. But after a couple weeks, we want to start adding these different pieces in there. And we'll ask, hey, do you want this automation, right? Here's a basic template. Most people will go and tweak those. Because JobNimbus is customizable. We're molding the system to fit your business model,
Sure.
not the other way around,
Yep.
right? We don't want to put you in a box. 'Cause we
Okay.
want you to be trying different things, right?
At what point along the buying journey is the most impactful? Like,
For the
affects the sale or the referral, whatever it might be.
definitely, from the beginning. If they're going to fill out a contact us form on your website, they're probably doing it at a couple others. So you want to immediately reach out to them. Hey, we're going to be in contact with you
So if
shortly.
I don't have any automations going, the thing that's going to affect me the most, affect my business the most positively, is putting something on the very front end.
Speed to lead. It's all about speed to lead,
I
right?
worry as I
My
begin to
roof
get
is
better.
leaking right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? I want to talk to somebody right now, right?
Okay. So
Some-
I'm not trying to put in a review request up front. That's maybe
Definitely
at
not.
level 2 or 3.
Yeah. In fact, you don't want to send that to everybody. So in JobNimbus, part of what we want to do is say, well, if this wasn't a good customer,
Okay.
red flag them and then don't send them proactively to Google, right? Oh,
Sure.
this dumpster was in my driveway an extra 10 minutes during rush hour, 3 stars, right? Instead, I just want to send a copy of the final invoice and then, hey, if you have feedback, just let us know right here, right? And then I can grab that, reach out, try and see if I can, mend the relationship. But other than that, I don't want to proactively send somebody who's not the best
100%,
customer.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sending that in an automated text. I see a lot of people not realizing the legal side of the automated communication in
Yeah,
this
people
world.
can opt in and out.
Okay. So how do y'all handle that and make sure that I stay compliant with the?
Yeah. So we're
Lips.
completely legally compliant with all that stuff. In fact, when you sign up for the platform that is JobNimbus, you fill out a form for all those pieces, right? It does give people the ability to opt in and opt out.
Sure.
And that's another one of those things that will coach you, because there is the scenarios where you can overdo it on automations and communication.
Yes.
So especially like automated tasks and stuff like that. Like if I have an automated task for everything, then guys just aren't going to use it. They're going to go back to their old ways, right? So we want to make sure we're super efficient. That's where we're giving you feedback there. But we stay completely compliant within the realms of communications and the way that the government wants that stuff to go out. People can opt in and out of that stuff.
So is there, when you're sending these text messages, is there like is it more formal? Is it super casual? Am I acknowledging this is automated, or am I trying to build texts that are like, feel like they're coming from somebody? I'm just curious.
For me,
Okay.
as somebody who's been in sales,
Okay.
right? I'm not a big fan of sending like even the emails that go out. I'm not sending a bunch of emojis and stuff like that, right? I just want to get to the point, How
Yeah.
we doing here, right? Hey, just a heads up. Tomorrow we're going to be doing that inspection. Please make sure to have A, B, and C ready to go.
Okay.
I'm probably not throwing a testimonial video there, right?
And then I can go in if I want to text the customer myself
Yeah.
through the system.
Yeah.
And then that communication's tracked.
It's all tracked, right?
That's the biggest thing with sales guys, right? Is getting the.
You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen in the CRM, it never happened, right? But if I'm a business owner, I need to see that communication, right? Because what if somebody's out of town? What if somebody's having a
The
baby?
app wasn't working. I didn't have Wi-Fi.
No worries. Because what's great about JobNimbus is if you have the job pulled up, as soon as you get back to where their service, it's going to throw it in the cloud. So there's no real excuse. If I call out of the app, hang up, it's going to prompt me to leave a note. If I don't put a note in there, or I put left voicemail, and I can see that the call was 10 minutes, like you left a 10-minute voicemail? What's going on?
So you can actually make calls in JobNimbus as well?
Call directly out of the app. Then when I hang up, it's going to keep track of how long that call was and prompt me to leave a note.
So I'm just going, it's been a few minutes since I've been in roofing, but I used to have like 10 different apps for all of that.
Yeah. We're trying to consolidate. We want to be the single source of truth, right? There's some things that we're not going to be your
That's
supplier.
extremely difficult to do when you're dealing with 10 different, to get a single source of truth.
I'm jumping from app to app to app, right? I'm usually paying for all these different apps. It's pretty common conversation where I'm cutting somebody's bill in half from all their technology because it all becomes one, right? I'm using JobNimbus just for the photos. I'm using it to build proposals.
Okay.
Communication.
So I think it's important to clarify that because there is some CRMs out there, like the biggest CRMs out there that claim to do it all.
Yeah.
Can do it all. And you're coming in saying we can do it all, but what's the difference?
So it depends on what, like if you're looking at Salesforce, which is the biggest CRM on the planet, right? Well, I'm going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get that set up. And not only that, it's not specific. So what's really interesting when you're looking at technology is how niche these technologies are becoming, right? Back 20 years ago, it was like Salesforce or Microsoft that I had to use or have somebody go build me a custom CRM, right? Which is what a lot of these CRMs are. They're just white label.
100 to 200,000.
Yeah, minimum, right? To where JobNimbus, and this is the beauty of software as a service, when you have a group of people paying in for the same goal, right? That's why we're constantly coming out with new products for people, right? Because it's what they're asking for. And so you can really make that, the tools cheaper.
So what's the big difference between, okay, you mentioned Salesforce, but there's also all-in-one solutions on the very bottom shelf as well.
It's kind of interesting too, because we see a lot of these pop up all the time where it's like a contractor maybe didn't have the best experience with their CRM. They're like, I can go build this, right? They don't realize, right? We've spent 13 years, 14 years building out JobNimbus. There's tens upon tens of millions of dollars that have gone into this. And so they'll come out, they don't realize the upkeep that it takes, right? And maybe they're missing a couple things like a mobile app. That's really hard to develop, right? So if you spread yourself too thin, you can have a bunch of half-baked products that look really good, but can you actually use them? And so we do see a lot of people like they'll buy into that. Awesome. 6 months later, they're probably calling JobNimbus or whoever, right? One of the more established brands. They're calling us just because they didn't have the best experience because they looked at something that, okay, you can do this. It's going to be everything. Well, they've been around for 2 years. It's a half-baked product. So it looks and like totally the idea of it is great. Right? Everybody wants an all-in-one solution, but it takes time to build that stuff out.
And you mentioned the support side. I think that a lot of people miss that when they're looking at a CRM, it's half CRM and half support because while it's easy to use, you still have a team that's going to want.
One of the biggest things you invest in with JobNimbus is that support, the manpower. With us, you have 7 layers of support. You have onboarding, you have your account managers, you have what we call the genius team, right? That you can book time with and do Zoom meetings with. You can call it support, you can chat in support, you're going to have sales reps, we have a knowledge base, we do webinars, we do events. We're at every event, we have guys here that are just here to make sure you're utilizing the system the best way. And it's crazy when we have those conversations and just spending 45 minutes to an hour tuning up your account, what it can do.
What's the most underutilized piece of
In my opinion, it's the reports.
report?
Yeah. You have all this data that's going in there. And so a lot of what happens when people set up an account in a CRM, they're utilizing it, but a lot of times they're just utilizing the basics. But you have a lot of data going in there that you can track those KPIs that tell us exactly what we've been talking about. What is my best platform
Which
for marketing?
reports?
So it's anything to do with the marketing,
Okay.
sales aspect of things.
Okay.
Not just that, but your workflow. Are there any bottlenecks in the system? How come it's taking me twice as long this year to put gutters on somebody's house than it did last year? Oh, we've grown quite a bit.
What do
Maybe
you
we
call
should
that
look at it.
report?
It's called Insights.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And
can.
create all sorts of different graphs and
Okay.
reports in there, right? I'm visual. I'm not a big data
Sure,
person.
100%.
I got a C- in business calculus. Some of those, calculations, I don't ever want to look at again, but I do like high level data. And so it can get you there. But if you do like granular data, all of that is capable in the system.
So I've found some people when I bring up reporting and we're looking at reports, the original data isn't good
Yeah.
or isn't being consistently entered.
Data is only as good as what you put in there.
So how does that work with you guys? What do y'all do to help companies?
So simplify, and then not only that, when we integrate, right? Because if I'm integrating to like
Okay.
Facebook and somebody fills out a form there, that needs to just tell me Facebook. But you got to create a process, right? Because the CRM is only as good as you use it,
Sure.
right? So how'd you hear about us? Great.
Yep.
I want to put that lead source in. Humans will make mistakes, right? And
Sure.
that's that kind of like gap that we talk about when we're looking at data is like, how accurate is this?
Yep.
But you're gonna be pretty accurate.
Get a pretty close view of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
What is what's the ideal time when I'm starting to think about a CRM? Do I need to wait till I'm doing $1 million, $5 million?
No, we take companies all the time from 0 to 2 million in the first year.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. In my opinion, if you're going to start a business, obviously you want to invest a little bit in some marketing. So wrap your truck, right?
Yep.
And then go get a CRM. Start knocking doors or get leads somewhere. But again, the best leads are going to be those referrals. So focus on that. And in JobNimbus, right out of the gate, that's something that we're going to focus on when we build your account.
To some extent, the CRM investment is a marketing investment to some level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime marketing is just what your relationship is with the customer.
Yeah, how you're viewed.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all that is in marketing. Some people look at it and like you hear marketing, you immediately just think like social media or SEO and stuff like that.
100%,
But it's
yeah.
all the communication. It's every
You
touch
mentioned
point.
a smaller company be able to rival a $40 million company
Yeah.
with their presentation simply because they're using
And that
something like
communication, right?
JobNimbus.
If I'm getting an automated text the day before my job gets started, hey, don't forget, tomorrow we're starting on that roof. Please make sure your driveway's cleared, put it away. If you're walking around with your shoes on. That looks really professional.
You have those templates built in?
Yeah. So when you come into JobNimbus, we have those kind of already pre-set up that you can kind of copy and paste them. Most people go and tweak them to their own
Sounds like a
language.
lot of work. I'm like, oh no, CRM going to take me forever to set up and build.
You have to invest time,
Okay,
right?
sure.
But if you invest 10 hours up front, if I can save you 8 hours a week after that, right? It's worth it. But then also
hundreds of
keep
hours,
up with
yeah.
everything, And so there is that, but we hold your hand through the whole process at JobNimbus. So you have that onboarding specialist that's going to come in and help you set everything up. We like to
Right.
take a teach a man to fish approach because we want
Definitely.
you being comfortable.
Can I ask what it costs?
For JobNimbus,
Yep.
just kind of depends.
Okay.
There's like a base
I'm starting
CRM.
out. I heard that roofers make a lot of money. I want to get in, but I want to make sure I have a good
Yeah,
CRM. What
if
am I-
you're like a brand new company coming in, maybe it's you or you've got a couple people.
Yeah.
Just depends. It could be anywhere from 250 to 400. The best thing to do is sit down with us so we can kind of evaluate what your needs are going to be, and based off of that, we can come to you with a proper proposal.
And then if I'm doing 10, 20, 30 million, is this something where I need to look at Salesforce at some point or?
No. The biggest residential roofing company in the country, and I don't know if I can mention them here,
Okay.
right? But they have 40 different locations, and they
Okay.
franchise out. They use JobNimbus. They have over
So I
1,200
can't outgrow this once I use it.
No. We work with private equity firms. I mean, we work with anybody who's just starting out all the way up to these private equity companies.
That's super cool because something that, you jump on a CRM, it's really only built for the solopreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something where I can.
Yeah. Some of these, it's like,
40
it's just built for a truck and a truck, right? And that's great. Start out that way, but you're going to grow to where eventually you're going to want to come talk to like one of the bigger CRMs, like a JobNimbus.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
What's something that people may not know about JobNimbus? We know it's a CRM. Is there any like AI secrets you've got going on?
Oof, that will have to hold on. We did just take on a big chunk of funding,
Okay.
the largest Series B in Utah history, right? And so the last time we took on funding, that's when I got here, and so it's crazy to see everything that we've changed in the system. AI is the hot topic,
Sure.
and so it's something that they won't fill me in until we get
Yeah.
closer to it.
Sure.
But we have been hiring a lot of different engineers because people are asking for this stuff, and with
Yeah.
JobNimbus, you're not going to get left behind.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're building the things, or we'll go acquire a company if that's the case.
I mean, I'm thinking I want to talk to the homeowner that while JobNimbus is listening in, and then just write up the proposal or something.
I would imagine that's where we're going to go. Fill out
Probably
this
get
form.
better. Yeah.
Yep.
AI agents, things like that.
And then
What's your
proposal's
take on
already
all that?
there. When people talk to me about AI, I'm always curious to what they need by it because it's interesting. A lot of times when they're thinking AI, well, I wanted to send out a text message or something like that. Well, cool. That's an automation. Oh, I wanted to calculate, the quantities that I'm going to need from the supplier. Well, great. That's already built in, right? Where AI really comes into play is there's the front end communication. So a lot of these companies are building like call centers and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that personally. I can definitely understand why that is useful in a certain case, but it's human to sell. Humans want to buy from humans. And so, like your sales guys out there, they're going to be valuable to you till the day they die because most people, when they hear that they're talking to a robot, they're hitting 0 to get to operator.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, no, for sure. And this gives you, JobNimbus is more of like a exoskeleton. It's still you,
Yeah.
just able to do so much more with all of the support.
Yeah. And what we do is we mold the system to fit you,
Yep.
right? Not the other way around where sometimes people get put in a box.
Like, yeah, like what you mentioned, Salesforce.
Yeah.
They try. I noticed they have a product for like a single person, but it's so,
Oh man,
so
yeah.
very, very
Well, and the
difficult.
amount of time that you're gonna, that's why, like, when you look at a Salesforce or like a Service Titan, for example, you have to go to a consulting firm outside of that to have that built out for you, right? JobNimbus, for the most part, we do that internally. Now, there's a lot of really awesome consulting groups that we work with and we partner with that can build it out, right? And what's cool about some of these consulting groups is they'll actually take a very like analytical business approach to that and say,
Okay.
okay, your goal is to get acquired in 2 years. We're going to build this out so it's already ready to go.
Set up
So
for
if a
that.
private equity comes in and looks at you, guess what? You already have the data there and the customer base.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So when I'm jumping into, when I'm making the decision to go into our CRM, I'm looking for open API, looking for scalability, affordability. What else?
You want to look at integrations.
Integrations.
Yeah.
It looks
So
for the open API to some
yeah,
extent.
but there's some that are like we've natively built. For example, to
Really?
like suppliers, right? That's a big piece because a lot of these they don't have that. So I'm manually entering all this information in, right? There's QuickBooks, for example. We want to plug into that. Most CRMs are plugging into QuickBooks,
Sure.
right? Most of, and we're looking at even more upscale enterprise level
Load of
solutions.
integration to QuickBooks.
Yeah, native integration.
Okay, super cool. So when I send an invoice or somebody pays, it's
Yeah,
Like
that's
all
all in JobNimbus,
on the
right?
side of JobNimbus.
90% of what you need, JobNimbus is going to get you there, but there's a few things that it's not. We're not going to be your supplier, right?
Sure.
We don't do the takeoffs, right?
Sure.
And that's mostly has to do with, Eagle View and Hover and some of these places. They're so accurate that in certain places, insurance companies, they'll push back if you're not bringing an Eagle View to the table.
You mentioned Service Titan. My understanding is that there's more of a focus towards like
Yeah. Service and
one-off
repair.
or service and repairs.
Yeah.
Is JobNimbus better for that as well, or
So
is it more
if you're
project-based?
like service and repair, for example, if you're a commercial roofer and you're doing a ton of service and repair, dispatching stuff like that, definitely look at like Service Titan, right? We can build a process for that in JobNimbus, right? But we're better for like a full re-roof, right? And the way that we build our proposals and our workflow
Start
and
to
automations,
finish.
start to finish. Yeah.
Yep.
There. Now, there's a lot of commercial companies that I work with that do service. There's a lot of residential companies that I work with.
Maintenance style contracts inside of
Yeah.
JobNimbus.
In fact, that's part of what you can build in the proposal. Okay, here's what it's going to be for the re-roof. Oh, do you want our 5-year maintenance program? Do you want a better warranty? Right? They can just select those options and sign.
And then it'll handle billing for you and all of that.
Yeah, and then the invoicing is all done in JobNimbus.
Super cool.
And
Just curious, where's the hottest market right now in roofing?
in roofing, it's kind of interesting. So it's all Florida and Texas are always crazy.
Yep.
But we do keep an eye on everything. Last year was interesting. Like Missouri, St. Louis, just got crushed. And so we know when we see this stuff come through, it's like
Sure.
we're gonna have 100 calls out of St. Louis,
yeah.
right? Because you have all that work. Well, you have to have a place to store all that work, right? But not only that, diversifying from there. A lot of these companies, they get really rich off the storm. They didn't diversify their offerings. And so that's one of the things we look at what successful companies are doing. They're diversifying their offerings. It's not just insurance. It's not just retail. They have it preset that, okay, if a storm comes in, we're ready to go. And JobNimbus has those workflows and those templates and contracts set up.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah. Man, Mitch, I really appreciate you sharing all of that. Some really great
Pleasure as
information.
always.
Well, when is the next iteration of the peak performers coming out?
Yeah, so that'll be out for IRE. However, they've given me permission to share it with anybody who's going to listen to this podcast and see it.
Okay.
So
Super cool.
you guys, I think, have the URL link.
Yep.
You'll put up in here.
Yes.
Awesome.
And so we'll be able to link that before it's actually officially released.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Super.
This is
Let's
the
ready to
first.
go.
That's the first time you're hearing about it here on the Roofer Helper. So
Super cool. And then just you in general, how do we get in touch with you?
yeah. So best way to get in touch with me. In fact, can I get another URL link in here?
I mean, go ahead.
All right. So we'll have another QR code that is for Mitch. So if you scan that, it'll take you right to my calendar. You can schedule a time with me. What I focus on is mostly new business coming in. So if you're looking at a CRM, maybe you want to switch, things aren't working out for you somewhere else, or you're looking to get into the business of having a CRM, come talk to me. Right, even 20-minute conversation. It's worth it for you to at least evaluate what's out there and available to you.
Super cool.
Cool.
Mitch, thank you so much.
Yeah,
man.
you'll be at IRE.
That's the plan.
Okay, we'll see you there.
Sure.
All right,
Take care, guys.
take it easy.